Hey guys, this is Courtney from Will's Bloom, and today we're going to be talking about the solar eclipse happening on October 25th, the day before my brother's birthday, and it is at 2 degrees exactly on the dot in the sign of Scorpio. A solar eclipse is a new moon, which means that the sun and the moon are together both at 2 degrees, and actually Venus is also there at 2 degrees. So what we can generally expect from an eclipse is what I like to say is a timeline jump. So just like when you manifest something, you are in the energy of that new experience and you can almost leap forward into a new timeline and bypass maybe years of kind of the in-between process. I mean, people say this is possible, like quantum leaping, quantum jumping. This is kind of how I see eclipse season. So when we are ready and on a soul level for a change, the universe kind of gives us this massive push in a certain direction. And it's like, okay, here you go. You got this. You can do this. We're going to go ahead and give you the exact tools and needs and experiences in this moment to get you on board in this new state of being, in this new evolution. And so eclipses are a very kind of karmic feeling, fated feeling situation or time of our lives where destiny starts to meet us. And many times it can feel a little bit like a big change or a crisis or something that has a lot of intensity in our lives. And so generally, it may take a little bit longer to integrate and for the dust to settle and to really see what the purpose of an eclipse was in our lives. And they last around 6 months. So the energy is not one and done. It's not 2 weeks like a new and full moon. It can carry on for half the year. And so these eclipses are really substantial. And this one is going to be especially so because eclipses can bring that volatility. They have a Uranian or Uranus type energy. And then on top of this, these eclipses are already in the sign of Scorpio, which can bring their own level of intensity in this sign. And so I generally see this as being a more kind of psychological experience for many of us, one in which we are having to maybe face certain fears or doubts or insecurities, or maybe we are, that doesn't mean you have to like have a bunch of bad things happen. Sorry, there's a squirrel that's outside my window. I gave him 2 pumpkins already. He already ate half of my entire pumpkin and he's coming back for more. Anyway, so the Colorado squirrels here are savage. But Pluto and Scorpio energy typically are related to releasing and letting things go. And that's often why we face these fears. Okay, I'm scared of losing this and now I lost it. Let me address this kind of emotional discomfort. Let me learn about myself in this process. Let me transform this fear or this loss into something that is going to be a learning experience for me and for other people. And that's not always what this is going to be about. Although for many of us, there may be some kind of shedding process that we do, especially in the area of life where we have Scorpio in our chart or an area of life associated with Venus. So maybe the houses that are ruled by Taurus and Libra, or just generally Venusian type topics, which could be about relationships, money, sexuality, our appearance, our femininity and feminine relationships. Our value systems, all those things could be undergoing a deep internal kind of metamorphosis as a result of the external experiences we may be confronted with at this time. Because solar eclipses tend to bring those external experiences into our lives. They really feel a lot more obvious for us. And it's a time where the seed is planted in a big way. And every new moon, the seed is planted. But for an eclipse, it's a pivotal seed in our life. It's one that's going to change the direction or the course of our life in some way. And this is going to be especially true if it's aspecting a planet of yours, and especially true if you have a planet around 2 degrees of the fixed signs. You'll really start to feel this kind of push over the edge into something new. And that can feel uncomfortable and that can feel scary. And sometimes we have to take away our backpack or our pacifier, our little security blanket in order to push us out into this world, into this new beginning. And some other times we're just having some deeper kind of psychological manifestations where we're overcoming that binky or whatever, and rising up in our own empowerment, which is a lot of what Scorpio is about. It's about feeling our own power and recognizing where we kind of have control over our lives, where we can manifest the things that we want, and embody the kind of authority that we want to embody. This eclipse is making a loose square to Pluto and trine to Mars. They are separating, so I'm not really focusing very much on this, but both Pluto and Mars are the rulers of Scorpio. Pluto is the modern ruler, Mars is a traditional ruler. So I'm just kind of wrapping this up to be more in line with the same energy that we're already discussing, of maybe having to make some choices around what to cut away, what to let go of, or how to transform something existing into something better. There is, again, this up leveling, and we can't always take everything with us when we are trying to do bigger and better things. We also are experiencing not an aspect to this moon in particular, but we're experiencing Mercury in Libra making a trine to Mars in Gemini. And so I think that many of us are going to be kind of ready to pull the trigger. Many of us are going to feel a little bit of this kind of zest and this fanaticism, especially because it's squaring Pluto. We might go to extremes. We might feel like I'm ready to cut everyone out of my life because I want to be friends with this kind of people and or, whatever it looks like. We might be a little bit more prone to going to extremes as a result of having so much kind of built up energy for so long. However, I think it is going to give us the power to be quicker on our feet, to be more decisive, to own our own kind of confidence in what we believe is right. And that square to Pluto could indicate, Mercury squaring Pluto could indicate that there may be some pushback. We may encounter people or circumstances or events that do challenge those beliefs, that do challenge our way of perceiving something. And it's our chance now to look deeper into this. So Pluto always asks us to look underneath the surface. If we are being challenged by something, what is that challenge trying to teach us? Maybe we shouldn't be as impulsive or as extreme. Maybe this challenge is here to help us look a little bit deeper, to see that maybe we do need to make some changes, but not all of the changes, or not in this way, or something along these lines where we may be a little bit trigger happy. And so I think that this square of Pluto can be great in order to have us reflect a little bit more. And as a square, it's an opportunity that not all of us will act on. Some of us will become more extreme, will become defensive, will fight back against whatever emotions or circumstances or events are coming up, or people that are coming up kind of against your initial thoughts and decisions, and they'll just kind of be defensive and they won't learn from this process. And then other people are willing to maybe go to that extra layer and ask themselves, what am I trying to be taught here? What am I trying to be shown here? Which I think is important. Mercury is also making a loose trine to Saturn, which is 4 degrees and separating. So again, not really feeling this as much, but it will help stabilize our mind and become a little bit more strategic and future oriented in our decision-making process, which I think is useful so that we can slow ourselves down, especially because Mars at this time will also be squaring Jupiter in Aries. So lots of fiery energy. Mars is in Gemini, so it's already moving quickly. It's an air sign. So we might feel that we have a lot of desires, a lot of passion, that we tend to become a little bit impulsive. Like, we're ready for this challenge. I'm ready to take it on. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And it's like you forgot your lunch in the fridge and you're about to go on this massive 10-hour hike and you're just so ready and so rushed, so urgent, so excitable that you're not having your head kind of screwed on. And so it's going to be very important for us to hopefully tap into this Saturnian energy, which is, again, not very strong at this point in time, but hopefully we can still ground ourselves into that so that we can utilize this passion and forward momentum in a controlled and discerning way and not let it kind of overcome us and become rash or impulsive, as I keep mentioning. Lastly, we have Mars making a square to Neptune. This is, again, separating, 2 degrees separating. This can take off some of that edge that Mars square Jupiter can bring, where we're just like so gung-ho. That Neptune can make us a little bit more uncertain or dreamy, lethargic, tired, that kind of thing. So Mars square Neptune can be, we've mostly been experiencing it before this eclipse, but it can be like a time when we feel a lot more prone to colds, when we're just like a little bit maybe not as confident as usual. So that energy can kind of be mixed into this as well. So, okay, before we jump into Aries rising, I did want to also talk a little bit more about Venus being on this eclipse. I just honestly got really distracted from these squirrels because they're just literally having a party on my porch, and I don't know I don't know how to stop their noise because they're bumping their music. Anyway, so Venus is with this new moon. And so what that can indicate is that there is a heavy emphasis on maybe having some changes and adaptations in the area of relationships, money, values, appearances, all those things I mentioned. But one core aspect of Venus is it desires to bring a sense of balance and harmony in our lives. And so when we see Venus on an eclipse like this, there can be an indication that there may be an area of your life where you are experiencing a sense of imbalance. And so maybe there is a relationship that you have where you've been giving a lot and you notice that you're not necessarily always getting it back. Or maybe you notice that you are living with integrity and having really, being like honoring your values, living according to your values, and again, living in integrity. And then you notice that maybe some of the people that you surround yourself with are not doing that. So there is this imbalance here where you are showing up in one way in your life and where others are showing up in another way. And for many of us, it will be relational, not all of us. But it could also be around our finances, our spending. Maybe you notice that the avenues in which, or like the areas of life in which you're spending money don't reflect your values and are not in balance with maybe where you would rather be putting that money. And so I think many of us are going to be asking certain questions around, what do I need to do to create this sense of harmony in my life where I'm experiencing my Scorpio energy in my chart. So whatever house that falls in is going to indicate maybe where this disharmony and imbalance can show itself. And the sign of Scorpio is very sensitive. It's a water sign. It's quite psychic. It's very penetrative and in tune with what are the motivations of people, what is really happening in this situation. And so I think that you guys will become a lot more psychically aware in this area of your life around any of those imbalances. You will feel it a lot stronger, and it might almost feel overwhelming. There is so much Mars energy that it gives me this feeling of impatience. Like if I experience this one more time, I'm gonna explode, like that kind of vibe. And I really feel though that this energy is kind of bubbling up to the surface, so that we can create a greater sense of belonging within ourselves and within our relationship dynamics and within our lives in whichever area this is at. So I especially pulled this turtle card, which always reminds me of home, right? And how we protect ourselves, how we create maybe defense mechanisms, which is kind of maybe the shadow side of Scorpio. Like I'm going to lash out and be defensive about something because I'm protecting my soft underbelly. But I think what is ultimately happening now is we're becoming a lot more aware of our boundaries, a lot more aware of these imbalances, and we're becoming so psychically sensitive to them that we might be a little bit more reactive initially, but ultimately it's going to allow us to make changes and make decisions in our lives, or those decisions could be made for us because that's eclipse season for you. Things can just happen to you. And it's ultimately going to allow you to feel a lot safer and more protected, because maybe you are someone who again shows up with integrity in an area where people don't, and it's like that energy is not being honored. You are not really safe if you are showing up and trusting people and you are in an area where people are lying. You're not really safe in that kind of environment. And this is just one example. It can show up in so many areas of our lives, and I'll go over that in a second for all the signs. But you can see how this Scorpio energy is about not only creating that harmony and balance and the equilibrium, but doing so in a way that is going to protect us, doing so in a way that's going to make us feel a lot more at home so we can embody more of the Scorpio energy, which is true vulnerability. And that is where the empowerment key comes from the most, because the people who are most empowered are the ones who are most vulnerable, who are most authentic, who are most themselves, and who also know when it's safe and with whom, and to what degree to be so vulnerable and to show all those sides of themselves. And so I think that is a more kind of deep dive or emotional perspective into what could be going on right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at this for Aries Rising. All right, up first, I have my beautiful Aries Rising. So for you guys, the Scorpio eclipse with Venus is taking place in your 8th house. And I definitely feel like you guys are being given the opportunity to step up more in the area of vulnerability. I pulled the Gazelle, which actually has a lot to do with vulnerability. But the interesting part about the Gazelle is that she's also hyper aware. And this is how I often see the 8th house. It's the house where we store a lot of crises and trauma, which we then can become hyper vigilant or hyper aware of this energy in our life, whatever planets reside there. I'm not saying a crisis is going to happen to you. What I'm saying, though, is that there may be ways in which there have been past events, past crises, past pain that has made you hyper aware of experiencing pain like this again. And so this could be something you're aware of and that you're conscious of, which is typical of the 8th house, or it may be something that you're not as aware of, which sometimes happens if you have planets in the 12th house. And right now, you guys have Neptune in the 12th house, where your planetary ruler, Mars, has been squaring Neptune. So there may be this feeling that there is some kind of lethargy or uncertainty and lack of clarity. And there's like general diffuseness, of I'm not feeling as confident, I'm not feeling as certain, but I'm not sure why. That can often come with Neptune in the 12th house, where there is an influence from this planet, but we can't actually pinpoint to exactly the problem so that we can find a solution. And so that could kind of be the backdrop of what you've been experiencing prior to this eclipse. And then coming up on the eclipse, I think it's giving you a chance to become more open-hearted. But I think the important thing here with the Gazelle is to try to not be so hyper vigilant and hyper aware during this process. So the best way to be open-hearted in this scenario is with the Stingray card. So what is Mars and Scorpio really good at? It's really good at having its boundaries and protecting itself when necessary. So this is ultimately what I'm seeing for you guys. There's a less of a need to be vigilant and aware and on guard, because you have already built in a stronger sense of a backbone and a stronger sense of boundaries, so that there are not so many circumstances going to come at you that will require you to be so vigilant or require you to be defensive. And so this eclipse might be a learning process where you're encountering situations that ask you to again learn about this whole vulnerability and boundaries and strong spine. I think strong spine is really, really key here. Like, I'm willing to set this structure in my life and honor the structure. I'm willing to honor this boundary. I'm willing to say no. And it's like really embodying these traits. And then once those feel like they're embodied, it is less necessary for you to be so focused on everyone else and so aware of how everyone else is feeling and reacting and how things might come across, because you are kind of solid within yourself. And so the reactions from others or, encountering people who challenge that is not so much of a worry. You don't have to be vigilant about them, because you know that you have the solid structure within yourself to defend anything. And I don't want to say defend, because that's not really what I want from this eclipse for you guys. I think this eclipse is all about learning to be vulnerable, to let down our defenses and again, with the stingray, when you have this strong sense of self and boundaries, it's like, you know, from a more intuitive place, who to let in, who to be vulnerable with. And I think that this is a big lesson that you guys are in the process of learning, especially with Venus on this eclipse. Venus is a planet about relationships and understanding one another, harmonizing with one another. And I pulled the 3 of Cups for you guys. So there's definitely very heavy emphasis on sociability. I think you guys might be going to parties. I mean, most of us will. You guys might be encountering new friend groups, or you might be adjusting how you behave within an existing friend group. And it's asking you to bear your heart a little bit more to people. And I feel like you're going to feel that you belong more once you do that with this 3 of Cups. Like, it's more of a celebration. Like, I'm one with these people now. I've let them in and they've accepted me for who I am. You guys also have Mercury in the 7th house making a square to Mars in the 3rd, or sorry, a trine to Mars in the 3rd. So I think that this is going to give you some of this bravery to have really great conversations with people, to set some boundaries if they need to be set, to make certain adjustments in your relationships if they need to be adjusted. But this trine with Mars is really going to help you bring about that inner alignment, that inner warrior that you don't need to act on. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to be vigilant and fearful. It doesn't need to be over or underactive, but it's something that people will sense within you. And as a result, they will respond to that within you accordingly. And so that's what I feel like you're doing with this Mars trine Mercury here. Just really communicating in a very clear way, maybe what you need, maybe what you expect, maybe what you won't tolerate, the good and the bad. This is also, Mercury's also making a square to your Pluto in the 10th house. So I think that this will actually impact your reputation, your career, your legitimacy, your ability to move up in the ranks and up in the world. Because as you start to establish these really clear boundaries, as you have this strong spine, people will look at you differently. And it will honestly help you get other people to respect you more, and that will actually lift you up in the ranks in some aspects. Maybe people will be more open to giving you certain opportunities because they view you a certain way. And again, these eclipse seasons, this eclipse energy lasts 6 months. So it's not like, oh, it didn't happen this week, so it's not happening. No, it's a process. It's an unfolding. Although sometimes there can be drastic kind of single events that then have a lot of integration after it over the course of the 6 months. You guys also have Mars in the 3rd house squaring Jupiter in your 1st. And this is where my warning is going to come in, because I love this. I think this is a really beautiful aspect. Jupiter's in your 1st house. You are in a process of becoming, of growing, of really pushing your own boundaries, of feeling more hopeful, more legitimate, wiser. You're learning a lot about yourself is really what's happening. And this Mars square is maybe getting you pumped up to try new things, take new risks, make new statements, bold statements, in order to promote this growth process. However, the square and with the energy of Mars and Jupiter together can be a little over the top. It can be a little over dramatic. It can be a little impulsive. It can lack planning. And this is something I am kind of seeing come through in the cards. I pulled the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. And to clarify, I pulled the Two of Wands. And the Two of Wands as a clarifier is indicating to me that there are certain decisions that require your time and discernment and all of your faculties on board. And if you're too excited, the decision can kind of be made for you with the energy of excitement. And, you are a fire sign, so it tends to dive in before everything has been thought through. And my warning for you would be to be careful around the decisions that you're making, that you don't just dive in too quickly, and that you carefully plan ahead. Even though that might feel a little counterintuitive, just pausing, taking a breath, and creating a strategic plan. And that's going to be the absolute best thing that you can do for yourself. Mars is still making a square to Neptune, but it's separating at this time. So you may have felt recently that your energy is super lethargic, that you're less hopeful. Maybe you feel inspired creatively, but not so much in the traditional sense. Maybe you feel less determined in your job and kind of the practical daily matters that Neptune doesn't necessarily care about, you might have felt like you've lacked energy towards that. And so I think that this is going to start improving. And then I think over time, your plan and your strategy will become clearer as Mars moves further and further away from Neptune towards November. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aries Rising. It's a time to open your heart, to integrate in a more authentic and vulnerable way into your community, to also really have your backbone and your boundaries firmly in place within yourself and within your relationship with yourself, as well as with your relationship with others, and to not be impulsive in your decision making, but be strategic and kind of hold yourself back when you feel really excited about something so that you don't kind of jump into things too quickly and regret it later. So that's what I'm seeing for you. If this resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Taurus rising. So for you guys, the Scorpio eclipse is happening in your opposite sign, which means it will be in your 7th house of partnerships. And this is usually a significant one because, of course, the North Node is in your sign, Uranus is in your sign. So you do have a lot of energy already here trying to get you to make some big changes in your life this year. And based off of some of the cards I pulled, I think it is possible some of you could be getting pregnant or having a child, or someone that you know that you're close with in your family, or a friend is having a child. I'm just going to say that that's not going to be for everyone, obviously. This is a general reading, but it did kind of come out in multiple ways, so I did want to mention that children might be a big possibility. Okay, regardless, having an eclipse in the 7th house typically has to do with relationships, and that's why I said maybe it's somebody in your life having a child, because it could be even your partner that's pregnant, or it could even be your partner that is undergoing the full experience of this eclipse. And I've seen this in many cases with people together. When they have some really big change in their 7th house, it's reflected in their partner's lives rather than their own. But because they're together, of course, they're affected by it. And so just kind of keep that in mind if you're like, that's not really happening for me. This could reflect other people in your life, especially your partner or people that you're very close to, like chosen family, that kind of thing. So that's even more so the case because this is a Scorpio eclipse conjunct Venus in Scorpio. Exactly. So we are definitely getting that experience of relationship topics coming in here strong for you. So either it's going to be dealing with somebody else and entirely in their life, or it's going to be about your dynamic with others. And so however that's emerging, I think there's going to be a revival or a renewal in this area of your life. And that for some of you could look like a new relationship coming in. That could look like your approach to your existing relationship really changing in a big way, because these eclipses are supercharged new and full moons. And especially if they are aspecting a natal planet of yours, you are going to experience some radical change. Maybe you have a completely different belief system. Maybe you decide to make your relationship official and get married. Maybe you decide to make a family or have a baby together in the future. Maybe you decide to break up with somebody and go after a new type of person. Maybe your philosophy around relationships completely changes and you do some really deep internal work around what partnership looks like to you, and maybe how your past patterns have been showing up and bumping heads with those around you and have led to dissatisfying relationships. It could be so many things. And so regardless, what we're typically seeing with the Scorpio new moon, aka solar eclipse, is some deep reflective and internal work. We're usually kind of looking at the emotional nature of something. We're analyzing something about ourselves or about others or about a relationship. And we're coming to certain conclusions that will help us live with more vulnerability, more authenticity, and more personal empowerment, which sometimes means having boundaries or doing things differently in order to create more respect in a dynamic. You guys also have Mercury in Libra in your 6th house, making a square to Mars in your 2nd. So the word that comes to me right here is prioritization. So getting very clear about where you are spending your time and your energy. And energy might feel a little limited right now because of Mars making a square to Neptune in your 11th house. You might feel like there are social events that are kind of distracting you, maybe taking you a little bit off course from your financial goals, from your goals around stability and property and kind of leveling up in terms of your assets. So you may have a lot of ambition and drive in this area of your life, but also kind of have a little bit of a drain from that square with Neptune in 11th house, where your friends are distracting, or you have social commitments, or you have to show up to this group every month for whatever it is you're doing. And you find that it's just kind of taking away some of the energy that you have. And so it's going to be even more important for you guys to learn prioritization during this time. And I pulled the B card, the worker B card. So I think that many of you guys are getting very clear on what it is that you are here to do every day and how you are meant to do it. So basically, this is a time in which we can start to cut out a little bit of the fat, or say no to things when we have to say no to things. And that might mean disappointing people. And that could also kind of tie into this eclipse, how this is a relationship eclipse. Maybe there are some ways in which you need to prioritize your work over a certain dynamic, and having those conversations and holding those boundaries could be really important for you at this time. I also feel like you guys are just really excited about whatever it is that you're working on. Or maybe there is this new financial opportunity coming your way that you're feeling really, again, stoked on. And I see this with the Passion card, and also because Mercury is making a square to Pluto in the 9th. So I think many of you guys are feeling this sense of inspiration, of seeing this go far for you. But you might also feel at times that you're kind of bumping up against your beliefs about yourself. You know, I'm going to work hard on this. I'm passionate about this. I'm doing it. I'm putting in my grind. And you're feeling really stoked on it. And then there may be some times where you are a little bit uncertain about how it's going to work out, or if you can even achieve it. And so if you do encounter something like that, I feel like really concentrate back on the work. Don't maybe feed the energy of that, because you have so much passion already. We just want to make it a constructive passion, because sometimes with Mercury squaring Pluto, it can sometimes become a destructive energy within the mind. Oh, my thoughts and my imagination could go so extreme into this beautiful idea and I'm stoked about it. Or it can kind of lead to anxiety, self-worth issues, and you can start to use your mind against you. So again, just really redirecting the energy to be used constructively during this time will be important. You guys have Mars in the 2nd house, as I mentioned, squaring Jupiter in the 12th. So I do think that part of you guys are being pushed right now through some kind of divine force. Whenever I see Jupiter in the 12th, there's like a divine force that is urging you to do things, that is guiding you unconsciously to do things. And this is partially linked to your financial matters because of this square. So there may be some kind of urge for you to go create something in the world, or to work really hard on something. But at the same time, because it's a square, there may be times in which you become overly focused on what you're getting out of a situation, how much money you're going to make, or, you know, the security it's going to bring you, or the house it's going to bring you. And it could actually take you away from the more soulful purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. And so I think that it may be beneficial for you guys to draw back a little bit if you find yourself going too much into the material realm. As an earth sign, that can be easy to do, and tap into kind of more of the deer energy, the very gentle, compassionate, giving side of yourself that wants to provide for others, that wants to help others, give security towards others. And I think that will balance this out in a really beautiful way, because you're going to ultimately be giving others what you want to receive. And I think it will kind of ground you into the spiritual side of things, which I'm sure many of you guys don't have problems with. But sometimes we can get really focused on the material world and the reality right in front of us, without being greedy necessarily, but we can just be overly focused on it. So definitely take a look at that if you notice that coming up for you. I also pulled the Ace of Swords and the 10 of Cups, which I do perceive the 10 of Cups. It came out in reverse, but I am seeing it as upright or reverse. So take it how it resonates with you. But I think that this card is really related to, again, maybe finding a new relationship and feeling so emotionally fulfilled by this new dynamic. Or if you guys are stuck in a relationship that is not right for you, many of you guys could experience this reassessment or realignment where you're like, okay, this isn't feeling good for me anymore. This isn't lighting me up anymore. I'm going to have to walk away from this in order to actually feel that level of happiness that I thought I was going to get from this thing. The Ace of Swords to me is about having really amazing breakthrough ideas. And I think this is especially true because the North Node and Uranus are in your first house. So there's something about you guys this year where you are the inventive ones. You are the progressive ones. You are the ones breaking past certain boundaries and limits. And I think Jupiter in the 12th house can actually really benefit you this way. It's going to hopefully unlock some of our subconscious glass ceilings and allow you to access these new ideas, but not only access them, but go after them. Because sometimes with planets in the 12th and energy in the 12th house, we can limit ourselves. It's like we have these breakthrough ideas and then we don't do anything with it. And so what I'm getting is this combination of Jupiter in the 12th, Uranus North Node in the first house. You are getting some really great ideas that you can act on, that you can implement, and I see you actually moving forward with it. And because it's an eclipse in the 7th house, you may experience other people joining you, other relationships benefiting this work process. So maybe you decide to collaborate, maybe your partner gets a new job, for example. It could happen to them or with them. So there's something going on here where relationships, money, that kind of dynamic, but also your career and ideas and your work are becoming really important. They are undergoing slight shifts and rejuvenation, as I've mentioned. And maybe some of you will also be getting pregnant. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Taurus. If that resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. And I hope you have a great one. Bye. Next, we have my beautiful Gemini risings. So for you guys, this solar eclipse in Scorpio is happening in your 6th house of work, health, daily routines. And I also know that Mars is moving through your sign as well. And it's about to move retrograde, I believe on the 30th or the 29th. So there could be some kind of like health things going on at this time. You might feel really busy or a little bit anxious or feel like you have a lot on your plate. And especially when Mars does go retrograde, you guys may have an experience of trying to redo something associated with work. So maybe you have a responsibility that you maybe didn't like the way that you did it the first time. And so now you're going to go back and redo that thing for your job or for your business or for a friend, something that you made or worked on that you're not maybe fully satisfied with, that needs some adjusting. So that is something I see very clearly, is this solar eclipse giving you the potential to create more of a strategic plan for how to move forward in your daily tasks. So maybe you ensure that the way that you do things moving forward doesn't require you to go back and make changes again. So maybe you go back when Mars goes retrograde over this winter and you make those adjustments that you need. And then the solar eclipse provides you the opportunity to create some kind of structure or plan so that moving forward, again, you won't have to redo things. You won't have to make that same mistake twice. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing here. This solar eclipse is also conjunct Venus. So maybe some of you guys could have opportunities at work. Maybe you have a lot of new relationships at work. I feel like many of you guys will just be very busy because I pulled this octopus card. And Venus usually provides us with some kind of new start of something or some kind of opportunity with something. So like I'm getting this new opportunity to work with this person or this new job or something like that, where you can accumulate a little bit more responsibility, but things that can bring you money, things that can feel exciting or can give you new, again, work relationships. It's adding something to your resume in some respects. And so you guys might feel just like, whoa, this is a lot. This is a lot on my plate. I'm working with these people over here. I took on this side job over here. And so you're making new connections, meeting new people, getting more money, something along these lines, but it just might be a lot to manage. And that's why I think it's going to be even more important as a result to have your strategic plan in place with these Two of Wands, to know exactly how you're going to manage your time, to have a system, to write your tasks down somewhere so that you don't let something fall through the cracks. For example, if you started a new relationship at work or some kind of new project, you would not want to let anything, again, fall through the cracks because you have 10 other things going on. So I'm getting this sense of like juggling, being quite busy and having to redo things, but knowing exactly how you want to do things moving forward. This Mercury, which is your planetary ruler, is in Libra in your fifth house, and it's making a trine to Mars in Gemini in your first house. So I think that many of you guys, again, could be having some kind of new project or new relationship come through, something that you're really excited about. I see you guys being really motivated, and it's also squaring Pluto in the eighth house. So if you are having something like this in your life, you may have to kind of confront some of your own personal demons with the square with Pluto and the Buffalo card, where you are running into the face of your worries. If you are taking on new responsibility, or if you are starting a new project or launching something new, or started dating somebody new, or you've met new relationships, there's something that's coming into your life, or even your relationship with your children, there's something new that's coming in here with them, or something, some activity, some energizing quality to this area of your life that is feeling very exciting and is motivating you. But with this square with Pluto in the eighth, it is requiring you to face the storm within yourself with this Buffalo card. It's requiring you to process and understand where you might get tripped up internally, where you might feel like I'm not good enough, or, I'm not parenting well enough, or no one's going to buy this thing that I've launched, or this relationship is doomed to fail. Like all these little stories that we tell ourselves because of our just nature and our way of being, which is totally Pluto eighth house. You guys are confronting those head on. And I think it's actually, you're doing it in such a successful way because of this eclipse. This eclipse is a Scorpio eclipse. It's giving you the power of self-understanding, self-awareness, and being able to process and integrate even the shadows. And so I think it's really going to help you by leaps and bounds to, again, confront this issue head on if you have any kind of qualms or insecurities around something. And the buffalo runs straight into the storm, and it doesn't die, right? It goes into the center of the storm so that it isn't actually hurt. And it's funny because what's at the center of the storm is a calmness. At least in a hurricane, in the eye of the hurricane, there is this calmness there. I'm from Florida. And that's also why I pulled this tranquility card. It's almost like now that you are facing things head on, you're excited about them, and you're dealing with any kind of issues that actually do arise mentally or emotionally. And because of that, you feel just this sense of peace because you're actually dealing with it. And so I feel like you guys may feel peace amongst also kind of a bit of chaos and responsibility. So it's a really good combination of cards, because I'm seeing that you are having a plan, you're having a structure, you're redoing where there may have been issues, you're excited about what's coming up, and as a result, things feel a little bit more under control. You are dealing with issues when they come up, you're dealing with shadows, insecurities. All of those things are being dealt with. All the boxes are being checked off. So it's not like one thing is kind of running loose and wreaking havoc. I really see that it's all kind of has a plan, it's all being dealt with, and because of that, you can experience a sense of tranquility even when there's more coming at you, even when there's more relationships, more responsibilities, more things on your plate. You're still able to maintain a sense of balance within yourself, which I think is really nice. You guys are also experiencing Mars in your first house squaring Jupiter in your 11th. So some of you guys might bite off more than you can chew in a social sense. So really keep in mind, if you are excited about some things coming up with your friends, on your social calendar, you may just overschedule yourself. You may be overzealous about kind of how much time you have once all your responsibilities are done. So my suggestion, because Mars is kind of trying to get you back into gear and get you motivated about the things that really matter to you, which for me right now is my career, because I'm a Virgo rising and it's moving through my 10th house. So my suggestion to you guys would be to really understand where your priorities are at. And so if you want to spend a lot of time in future planning, or actually, just disregard what I just said, because I do want you to future plan. I guess the 11th house is more so about kind of longer term goals, things that you're not working on now, not getting overly distracted by those, because you want to have your strategy and you want to have your more immediate goals here, and working towards those diligently. And Mars squaring Jupiter can get you really excited about, like, what am I doing 5 years from now? And I don't necessarily think that that's going to be beneficial because of how much will be on your plate. It could kind of distract you, as well as these social circles or community events or some kind of collective, which is the 11th house topics, may you may be just really excited about doing things associated with that. So plan your time according to your priorities, and I think that you won't have as many issues. But again, I see this octopus. You got a lot that you're juggling anyway, and I think you just have a lot of good things coming, so it doesn't feel bad. It feels like you have a lot of good things coming, so you have a lot of good things to choose from. So that's ultimately what I'm seeing for you, Gemini. I hope that resonates. If it does, please let me know by liking, commenting down below, and I hope you have a great one. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Cancer risings. So for you guys, this eclipse in Scorpio is happening in your 5th house, and it is, again, conjunct Venus at 2 degrees of Scorpio. And usually when I see an eclipse in the 5th house, it does tend to bear more positive fruit. The 5th house is a house of joy. Venus loves to be in this house in particular because it's the house of pleasure, of sensuality, of dating, of children, all the things that make life joyful. And that's exactly what Venus is all about. So Venus is so happy here. And then on top of that, we have this amazing, I don't know if I should always say amazing, but we have this powerful eclipse happening in the 5th. So I think that this is going to give you guys a little bit of a kind of new challenge, something that you're willing to do that is different than something that you've done before. And I say that because I pulled the Hierophant in reverse and the King of Wands. So there's this energy of you kind of stepping into a leadership position in your life and overriding the tradition that you've been following. So some habits that you've been always doing, some path that you've kind of fell into or that your community has fallen into that you've also just aligned yourself with. I'm seeing you guys kind of go out on your own in some way, do something of your own volition, of your own passion, which is very 5th house energy. It's about the self and your own personal expression, your own interests. And oftentimes the 5th house is quite entrepreneurial. So maybe some of you are having a brand new idea of something to do. Again, something breaking from the past, doing something outside of your normal box, outside of the status quo, outside of what you typically expect of yourself. And as a result, I think you're going to feel a lot more passionate, a lot more excited, a lot more inspired. You're going to feel like you're the leader of your own life. And I think with this Otter card, you're also going to experience the sense of playfulness. Like, the thing I'm creating is bringing me so much joy. It feels like it's pleasurable. It feels like it's playful. And as a result, I want to keep doing it. I'm not going to stop. And that's something I see with this continuance card as well. I feel like this is something that you're going to be working on every single day because you want to be working on it. So I don't feel like it's something that you do begrudgingly or that you do because you think you should. I really feel that this is something that is being born out of a passion. And so some kind of passion project or something that's really inspiring and lifting you guys up is going to begin at the solar eclipse in the 5th house, which is a house of birthing as well. It is the house of creation, of children, of our expression. And so it's something coming out of you that I think is going to feel like not only a reflection of you, but also like it's the better reflection of you. Like, it's lifting you out of a state of maybe stagnation or hopelessness, or, you know, if you've been feeling a little bit more moody or down, or if anything has been going a little bit south in some ways, I feel like this is going to re-energize you in a lot of ways and kind of give you something to aspire towards and work towards in your daily life. You guys are also having Mercury in your 4th house, squaring Mars in the 12th house. So there are maybe some discussions that you need to navigate at this point in time around your home or your family. Maybe you guys live with roommates and you need to kind of sort out some things from the past in order to move on from them and resolve them. The trine, did I say a square with Mars? It's a trine with Mars. I don't know if I said square trine. But it feels like you guys are processing some emotional things that may have to do with your home or family members, that may have to do with kind of tidying things up in these areas of your lives. And then as a result of that, I feel like you guys are going to feel a lot more freer. And the Mercury is squaring Pluto in the 7th house. So you may be challenged a little bit in your relationship dynamics. You may encounter people who are a little bit more combative, or maybe you want to be more secretive about what you're doing with them because you don't trust them. There can be just a little bit of sense of polarization in conversations with some people in your lives. And this could have to do with people that you live with, or your family members, or people who kind of feel like family to you. But regardless, I feel like you're going to overcome this at some point. And I think that this eclipse happening in the 5th house, again, will re-energize you in a way that is going to kind of overshadow any other things that are going on right now, if there is some kind of tension happening in your life. You guys also have Mars in the 12th squaring Jupiter in the 10th. So I think that many of you guys may be very inspired by how this new passion can maybe evolve into a career, or maybe you have some just general life goals that you're working on right now that you're really excited about. However, with Mars in the 12th house, you may have kind of wasted energy. You may find that you're maybe a little bit tired, or you do a lot of things and don't have a lot of results. There can be this sense of like spinning your wheels a little bit, especially as Mars is about to turn retrograde. You may find that you'll have to redo some of the things that you're doing now, or that this is more of a process of learning rather than full implementation. And so I think with this square with Jupiter is to just kind of have your expectations, in a realistic way, like setting them in, I'm not speaking correctly, but setting realistic expectations so that you're not disappointed if you have to redo something, or if you feel like your work isn't creating the exact results that you want at this time. Maybe you're producing a lot or putting a lot of effort and it's not accumulating to exactly what you're looking for, especially because Mars is also squaring Neptune, but that's kind of subsiding, but that can also drain our energy a little bit. And just Mars in the 12th is a little bit less energized, a little bit more drained. So overall, you might find that spinning wheel syndrome, but it's not that it's not useless. I think ultimately it's helping us form character and form a greater understanding around a certain topic. And so I think that it's all very purposeful. Mars is spending a very long time in the sign of Gemini, so it's spending quite a bit of time in your 12th house, and it's also retrograding there. So I do think that the act of kind of stalling or dragging things out is actually ultimately going to help you guys address insecurities or things from the past, or boundary issues or anger, any of these emotional things that can be happening within us that can actually detract from our level of success because they're distracting, or because they are things that we haven't processed, and so we kind of bump up against them as we're trying to reach success. Maybe you're trying to get something out there and you feel like it's never good enough. All these things can kind of come up, and I think that this square with Jupiter is allowing you to continue to work and to feel inspired, but ultimately, again, you may be in this longer process of creation than you initially thought. So as long as you kind of are okay with that and understand that this is all part of the process of working with your subconscious mind to overcome some blocks, so that when you do kind of get things out there, there's no internal resistance against your own creations and against yourself, then I think you'll see that it was really beneficial after all. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Cancer Rising. I hope that resonates. And if it does, please like and comment down below. I read all of your comments. They are really helpful to my practice and they mean so much to me. If you want a reading, definitely check me out at willisboom.com. I also teach astrology there. So I hope to see you guys there. Bye. All right. Up next, we have my beautiful Leo risings. This Scorpio solar eclipse is happening in your 4th house, conjunct Venus. And this is definitely going to impact you guys a little bit more significantly because it's hitting an angular house. And I feel like you guys are also being activated within your 10th house of career, because that is where the North Node is. That's where Uranus is. I feel like this highlight for you guys this past year has really been, what is my place in the world? What am I meant to do? How am I meant to impact people? And really leveling up in terms of how you view your own self and your career and your reputation. And so I feel like there is something around that going on. but also it's very fourth house. And if we know anything about the fourth house, it's that it is the least visible part of the chart. It's where the sun is the least visible. And so it is one of the most intimate and subconscious or deeply hidden houses. And it's interesting because I am seeing a link between the 10th and the 4th house, not only in your chart where this eclipse is taking place, but also in the cards. So I pulled the 3 of Pentacles and the Moon card, which I feel like is talking about working with somebody, and then the Moon usually has to do with something hidden or secret or something emotional that hasn't been fully dealt with or fully processed or uncovered. And so I feel like there may be something that comes to light in regards to working with somebody. So maybe it's your community, maybe it's your friends. It doesn't have to necessarily be like somebody that you work with, but I think for many of you, it could be someone that you work with that you may experience seeing something or realizing something or having something come to light for the first time. And I think as a result of this realization or as a result of this discovery, I think many of you are going to be asked to go within yourselves to then kind of define how you feel about it, to kind of process what's happening. And I really see that because of multiple other cards that I pulled, but again, because this is happening in your 4th house, which has a lot to do with not only your home and your family. So maybe this could be something happening within your home or family that you're processing. It doesn't have to be with work, but there's a sense of community, connection, working together to create something with the 3 of Pentacles, which could be your work family, your friends' family, your real family, your roommates. Like it could be any of these areas of your life. There's some kind of people or community that work together, that something is being revealed, that something was hidden and now it's coming to light. And Scorpio actually has a lot to do with kind of holding things close to our chest or being a little bit more secretive. An eclipse here in such a hidden part of the chart is saying that there is, again, this kind of realization about something. And so, again, I think you guys are going to have to then process that emotionally and kind of discover how you really feel about it. And I say that because I pulled the Strength card in reverse and the Hermit card and then the Golden Egg. All of these cards are really about feeling something deeply, being affected by something deeply, and then having to go within to question what you make of that situation, to discover more about yourself in the process of feeling your emotions. And I think it's always how we respond to situations that starts to define our character. It starts to define who we are. You know, our behavioral responses to things is like a huge, huge portion of ourselves. So I think that you guys are going to go within emotionally. You're going to be impacted by something. You're going to have to go within and decide how you want to react to something, how you want to feel about something, what stories you want to make out of what's happening, what you want to make something mean. So let's say, for example, that you work with somebody and you discover that they have been not paying taxes or something. You then kind of have to decide, you have to, first of all, you're probably going to feel some type of way about it because maybe you're not sure if you feel safe in that company anymore. You don't know if you trust that person the same way anymore. It's like a discovery of something that will alter your perception, and that you have to go in and decide, what does this mean about me? What does this mean about my relationship with this person or with my family or with this emotion that I'm experiencing? And how do I want to react to this now? And so that's generally what I'm seeing here. I almost feel like, because it's an eclipse, and the Moon card, I kind of feel like it's going to catch you off guard a little bit. I feel like it's going to be something that hits home, or that hits you emotionally in the center. And this could be totally about somebody else, or this could be something that affects you or about you. It's going to be different for everyone because, of course, this is a general reading. But I'm just seeing something here like a discovery of information, especially because Mercury is in your 3rd house and it's trining Mars in Gemini in your 11th house. So there is some kind of communication here happening with your community that I think is revealing something that was hidden that is going to affect you because it's 4th house in a very like deep emotional way. At the very least, I think it's going to shake up your foundations, shake up your home life, shake up your kind of homeostasis. At the very least, it's going to be something that is different, that kind of shocks you a little bit, possibly. Mercury's also squaring Pluto in the 6th house. So again, I do think that this could be something related to work as well, or this could somehow affect work. Let me actually pull a card on that. This could also just show imbalances within relationship dynamics that become really obvious during this conversation or this kind of discovery of information. You could be starting to be very aware of how things have maybe been unfair in a relationship dynamic, because at the end of the day, this eclipse is exactly on Venus, which is a relationship planet. So it's going to affect you in a relationship kind of way. And it could even potentially affect your financial status as well. Okay, is there anything you want to say for Mercury square Pluto? I got the Chariot. This is interesting because the Chariot has a lot to do with our willpower, which I feel like is kind of going back to how do I want to react to the situation? Because how I react to the situation defines who I am and reflects on me. And so going within to emotionally process something, create beliefs around it, and then decide how to react from there may be a very important part of this process. And so I think Mercury squaring Pluto could signify actually having more, like having to gain control over the mind and over one's worry or anxiety or reaction to something. That's going to look different for everybody again, but I feel like it's having some kind of willpower around the way that you react or express yourself. And maybe the degree to which you have control over that will vary from person to person. Your Mars in the 11th house is also squaring Jupiter in the 9th. So this is again where I'm like, I feel like you're going to have to, once you're presented with certain information, then decide what you believe about something. The square with Jupiter in the 9th is asking you to maybe look at your belief systems versus how other people believe things. Maybe there are kind of way different perceptions happening here. Maybe the person, let's say your boss, didn't pay taxes and you're not sure how you feel about that and how you feel about him and how you feel about this workplace or her. And then you talk to that person and you realize that they have a totally different perspective on why they didn't do that and what that means. And so you're kind of at this crossroads, I feel like, where you are going to decide what is in my integrity? What do I want to do as an individual? Do I want to support this? Do I want to go against this? Like, how am I going to react to this? And how does this define me and define my belief systems and define my moral code? And a square is like this aspect of tension where you have an opportunity to make something out of it. You're going to have the opportunity to alter or change kind of what you do as a result of being presented with this information. And I also got the affection card, which is really interesting because I feel like this card is giving me the vibe of people pleasing or wanting to get along, wanting everything to go well, not wanting issues. Like, I just want to give and receive love. I don't want drama. I don't want to like go against somebody. I don't want to have to pick sides. That's kind of the energy I'm getting with this card. And there's also a cat looking in the mirror here. So I do feel like while you want things to be simple and easygoing, there may just naturally be a time where you have to look at yourself in the mirror and realize that even no decision or not taking a side is a decision, is still going to impact the situation. So even if you don't, if you want to look the other way, you don't want things to happen, it's still your reaction and your not behaving in a certain way or not doing something is still important and is still going to add its energy into the situation. So I hope that you guys can kind of take that into account, This might be a really hyper specific reading. I don't know who this is for. So if it doesn't resonate, I'm sorry, because there's probably a lot of different ways to take this, but I'm just getting this like really clear message for somebody here that something is coming to light that you're going to have to go within yourself to then synthesize and create your own beliefs around. So I hope that that resonates with you guys. And I think at the end of the day, giving yourself a lot of your own affection and a lot of your own love is going to be important in this process as well. So that's what I see for you, Leo Rising. If that resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below, because I don't know who this is for. So if it's for you, please do let me know. And I hope you have a great day. Definitely check my readings out and my astrology classes out at willowswim.com. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful and fellow Virgo risings. For you guys, the solar eclipse in Scorpio is happening in your 3rd house, conjunct Venus. This is a new moon, so both the sun, the moon, and Venus are all in Scorpio here at 2 degrees in your 3rd house. So a lot of us are undergoing some type of relationship change. Many of us are undergoing financial changes, and I kind of see some mixture of the two for you guys. So the 3rd house is not a hard-hitting house, although I think if you have any planets aspecting this eclipse, it will make it more intense for you. But I still do see this bigger impact happening for you guys here. And I think partially it's because you have Mercury also in so many aspects happening right here. So we're going to get into this in a second, but I am definitely getting the sense that you guys are really working hard on things and working hard on yourself emotionally. And that is going to really come out in this eclipse, because an eclipse in the 3rd house can bring about a change in our perception. The 3rd house is where we tend to interact with our environment, how we perceive our environment as well, and how that then kind of informs our relationships. So it's this cyclical nature of I see something some way, I react some way, and then I get more information or more data that's resulting or reacting to my reaction. And it's kind of like this cycle that we're in, this little treadmill. And so when there's an eclipse here, especially with Venus involved, I'm seeing that there may be some kind of surge in energy that may give you the momentum to alter a glitch in this cycle. So let's say, for example, you keep encountering difficult relationships and you react to them like you would react negatively to a difficult relationship. And then you feel like you keep encountering more of that. So it's kind of this feedback loop. That's the word I was looking for. I'm seeing something shift here or alter here where your perception is the thing that's changing the most. And as a result of your shift in perspective, your reaction changes slightly, and then the universe responds accordingly, giving you different types of people or experiences because of your reaction. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing here with this eclipse, especially being relationship oriented. But I think that this could also be related to money as well. So if you've always kind of thought about money as one particular thing or in a particular way, I see you now viewing money maybe differently, and viewing success differently or reacting to money differently. And that, again, changing this feedback loop to where maybe now you are able to attract more abundance. Maybe you're able to save money. You're able to kind of shake yourself out of your previous way of doing things. And this is solely based off of your change in perception of reality, especially around money and relationships. And I think for many of you guys, this is going to be also a deeply internal experience. And this is part of the reason I say that is because your planetary ruler, Mercury, is going to be making a square with Pluto. And anytime our planetary ruler is in an aspect with Pluto, we are being asked to go deeper, to go within. And at the same time, I pulled this lizard card, which definitely is a card where, first of all, I'm sloughing off kind of old dead cells. This is what I think about the lizard changing its skin. Changing its skin? What is the word for that? Shedding its skin. So I think that you guys are shedding an old perspective, an old way of being that was really outdated for you. Like you're ready to move into this next level of your life. The other interpretation of the lizard is that he's psychically sensitive. So he is able to pick up on these upcoming changes already. So I think that's why you guys are able to start undergoing these shifts, because you're already feeling that something new is coming for you, especially in 2023. I think that you guys are feeling like you are on the precipice of something. And as a result, this lizard card is indicating that you may be a little bit more porous, a little bit more perceptive, and you may need a little bit more time alone to kind of preserve your energy, to take in the downloads that are coming in, to journal, to process things. Because I think that ultimately the square with Pluto is going to give you some divine inspiration about your path ahead. What actually feels good and feels like it's going to lead you to success, because Mercury's in your second house of finances and squaring Pluto in the fifth. So there's this intricacy of, or this interweaving of pleasure and money. And what is my personal expression, my personal desires, and how does that align with the needs of my community and how I can make money out of their needs by benefiting them, but then also benefiting myself. And it's a square, which is an aspect of tension, which means that it's not going to just lay right on your lap. Like you're going to have to do some introspecting. You're going to have some time, maybe overcome some roadblocks. There has to be a synthesis of the information that isn't going to happen naturally. It's going to take effort. And so as a result of this, I think that you guys may need a little bit of more time alone in order to be able to do those things. And that's not normally something I would really say during an eclipse in the third house. This is like a very busy kind of house, a social house, an interactive house. But because of this new information that I feel like is being downloaded into you, I think that you do need a little bit of time for processing, as I mentioned. I also pulled the fertility card, which to me is speaking about this new beginning in your financial matters, which I think is really speaking into what I was saying with Mercury being in your second house and you starting to get new ideas about how you can make money in a really practical way. And again, it's about how my desires intersect with the needs of the community and how I can merge them and capitalize on them so that it's a win-win for everyone. And so I really feel like you guys are going to be able to do that, especially because Mercury is also trining Mars in the 10th house. So there's already this focus on your career. There's already this focus on your impact in the world. And these energies are mixing really well together. It's just drawing in or tying in the extra function of, but how do I best express my unique voice in this situation? And then once you can kind of make an amalgamation of all three, I think that you'll find that you're extremely satisfied. And I think you'll also notice that things start to pick up really quickly because you have the idea and now it's just time for implementation. And then that's what I see with this Knight of Swords and Knight of Pentacles. You guys are in the production phase. You are creating something. You are crafting something. You are right smack dab in the middle of it. You aren't hesitating. You aren't delaying. You're working hard. You're pushing forward. I'm seeing you just being extremely decisive and action-oriented and just going. And that's because Mars is in your 10th house. Like there's nothing holding you back right now. Mars is going to go retrograde. So maybe there are some aspects of your career that you will refinish or redo or look at old projects and kind of revitalize them. But I still see you moving with this kind of intensity and intention where I'm going to make money. I'm going to do this for other people and for myself, and I'm going to do this well. And so I really feel like you guys are benefiting significantly from this eclipse. You also have Mars in the 10th squaring Jupiter in the 8th. So I think that you guys are having to overcome some emotional blockages as well. Just one second. So the Empress in reverse is related to dependence on others. Let me read what it says on Biddy Tarot. I love this website, by the way. So the Empress reverse encourages you to make self-love and self-care a priority. It if you've been giving away too much of your personal power by placing too much emphasis on another person's emotional or material needs and neglecting your own. It can suggest that you're feeling a creative block around birthing a new idea or expressing yourself creatively. You may worry whether it will be a success or if your work is appealing for others. So this is kind of what I was saying, is like, how do I merge what excites me and what excites the public? What excites the other person, what they need? And that is where I feel like there is a break in the cord. I think that Mars making this square with Jupiter in the 8th, though, is going to help you understand how to mend this break. But I think ultimately you're going to have to mend it through emotional means, because the 8th house is very psychic. It's very aware. You guys are growing a lot through this avenue of yourself with Jupiter moving through here. You're awakening to your intuition in deeper ways than before. But the 8th house is also extremely sensitive. It's a very kind of vulnerable part of our chart where there may be parts of us that we haven't yet exposed to the world or given to people to protect ourselves, or because we haven't even considered it as an option. And so what I'm seeing here is you almost, especially with this Mercury square Pluto in the 5th, it's like you're having to access deep states of emotional vulnerability in order to somehow repair the cord between what do I want to express and what do people need. I know that sounds so like random and unrelated, but I think that this is a very important tie somehow. And I think it might be that people, what they really need is that honest human connection with you. They need to hear your story. They need to feel your feelings. They need to see the experiences that you went through. And I think if you are having some kind of creative block or misunderstanding or break in this cord, it's something that you need to tap into that feels vulnerable and personal, that is going to then bridge that gap. And so I think Mars intent squaring Jupiter in the 8th house is asking you to be courageous in expressing your vulnerability through your career, through your voice, through your reputation. Whether this is having a conversation with somebody at work, whether this is putting more of your personal life into your business. There's something here where you guys have been holding back and maybe overly relying on your intellectual nature as a Virgo rising and not allowing people inside of you. That sounds really sexual. Sorry, I just realized what I just said. Inside of your mind and your emotions. And that's why I think I pulled the King of Cups. It's like this highly psychic, highly intuitive, highly vulnerable and sensitive part of you, but it's also not just lacking awareness. It's not just sharing whatever with whoever. There is a vulnerability there that is backed up with self-protection, self-love, and having boundaries with the Queen of Swords. This is a clarifier. So the Empress in reverse and Queen of Swords as clarifiers to me, again, are saying that you're being vulnerable and doing this in a way that is also focusing on self-preservation. It's not just, being inappropriate with how much information you share or sharing it with the wrong person who's going to then use it against you. There's very strategic about this. There's something that is, again, very protective of yourself while still opening up a little bit. So there is going to be this unique balance that you're going to have to learn. It is a square, which may indicate that there is some fumbling in this process of learning, but ultimately I see you guys definitely achieving this. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Virgo rising. I hope that resonates with you. Again, this is a solar eclipse in your 3rd house, so there's a huge change in your perspective overall, and I think that could relate to everything I just talked about in general. And if this resonates, then please let me know by giving me a comment down below about how it applies to your life, or just a thumbs up. Any kind of interaction is great. And if you want an astrology reading, or if you want to learn astrology from me, definitely check me out at willowswim.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Libra risings. So for you guys, this solar eclipse in Scorpio is happening in your 2nd house. And the solar eclipse is conjunct Venus, which is one of your planetary rulers. And if Libra is your ascendant, it is your chart ruler. And it's also in the 2nd house where it has similar topics to Venus already. So I do feel like this is going to be a big one in regards to your life changing, especially around money. but also around yourself and your perspective and the way that you view yourself and your own self-worth. All those things are undergoing a bigger transformation because of the fact that Venus is your planetary ruler and it is exactly conjunct this eclipse. So what can we expect from something like this? So first of all, I feel like many of you guys are maybe healing any areas of your life in which you may have had self-doubt, where you may have felt like you didn't have a lot to offer or to bring to the table in a certain area of your life. And for some of us, confidence is selective. Like we're very confident at maybe our job and at relationships, but then we're not confident at sports or our body, or maybe different ways around. There's usually some area of life where we feel like we are lacking confidence. And the second house is where we tend to feel usually like this is an asset for us. This is what we bring to the table. This is what we can offer the world. And then we in turn kind of get paid for it. But if there are ways in which your second house has been weakened, if there are ways in which you feel like your assets aren't good enough or that it doesn't compare to other people, then I think that this eclipse is going to bring in some much needed self-awareness, because I actually don't think that feeling is based off of reality for many of us. I think for most of us, it's our perception of how much we have to offer rather than actually us lacking something. And so that's what I'm seeing with the Queen of Swords and the Temperance and the Five of Pentacles. I'm really seeing with this Queen of Swords that we're bringing in a sense of honesty and discernment over ourselves, over our opinion of ourselves, basically, where I am now able to see the truth about how amazing I am in a certain area of my life and how much I have to offer people in this area. And I think with this Owl card, this is something that you have maybe always kind of known or felt was part of your offerings, was part of what you were meant to bring out to the world, or part of how you were meant to express yourself in the world and how you were meant to be an asset to the world. But I think that maybe some of you have kind of pushed it aside as like a part of yourself and maybe neglected it a little bit, maybe picked it up here and there, but not fully integrating it and owning it and saying, this is me, this is my unique talent, this is my gift. And so that is what I feel like is happening at this eclipse, is a awakening and an awareness of this and integrating this as a gift and becoming more whole in the process. Because this gift was always there, but it's just that you weren't maybe fully embodying it or utilizing it or owning it in the way that the universe can kind of expected you to. And so this wholeness card to me is indicating that by bringing this part of you and allowing it to kind of settle down and owning it for who it is, for owning that part of it's for yourself for who it is, it's like completing the picture of you, because it's almost like trying to operate without awareness of how amazing you are, or awareness of something that you're kind of bringing to the table every single day. It's like you're still bringing it to the table, but without the awareness, there can feel like there's something missing, because you're not fully, again, owning part of who you are, which is really important. So I'm seeing this really strongly at this eclipse for you, which is really exciting. I think it's changing you on not only an identity level, but also I think it can then result in financial abundance because of the fact that you will feel that you have more to offer. And so the universe can then match that. So there could be new financial avenues opening up for you, a lot of healing around your worthiness opening up for you. And I just see this being tremendously financially beneficial for you in the future. You guys also have Mercury and Libra in your first house, trining Mars and Gemini in your ninth house. So I think that this is giving you a sense of belief in yourself and also a lot of excitement about the things that are going to unfold in the future. I feel like you owning this part of yourself is giving you not only a new identity, but now what can I do with this new identity? How can I make this unfold in new and exciting ways that I haven't necessarily allowed myself to dream about before? Or maybe I did, but I never fully engaged in it. And now I'm owning it, I'm believing it, and I'm going to open up all these new paths for myself in the future as a result. Mercury in Libra is also squaring Pluto in the fourth and trining Saturn in the fifth. So for many of you, there may be some things that you may need to overcome within yourself in regards to how you've always done things, or maybe how your family has done things, or maybe what you've wanted for yourself since you were a kid. The fourth house gives me this feeling of there are certain expectations that you or that others have put on yourself that have created habitual ways of doing things. And this new awakening to these sides of yourself, and like the more that you have to offer to the world, is going to bring about, again, new pathways. But usually when we have these new pathways, there are old parts of ourself that then kind of flare up and tell ourselves, like, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe we should stay safe. Maybe we should do the things that we've always done. And so many of us will have to combat that internal voice. And for some of us, it may be an external voice where it's going to affect your family. It's going to affect people in your home or your homeostasis in some way. And it's going to require a change. And that could possibly affect relationships around you. And so this change is going to then kind of create a little bit of friction, a little bit of tension as a result of needing to overcome kind of the old ways of doing things. And so you guys may encounter that there's a little bit of friction with family or with where you live and kind of, you know, how you've done things. Those areas of your life needs a little bit of shakeup. And maybe some of you will realize that you need to move. Like if you are trying to go down a new path, you might realize that where you're currently located is not necessarily supporting that. And that can be an uncomfortable thing, or you may have to come up with a unique solution for that. So that's kind of just a very specific example for some of you. And then lastly, you guys have Mars in the 9th squaring Jupiter in the 7th house. So I'm getting this feeling that you guys are having a lot of new pathways and excitement and kind of seeing yourself in this new perspective. But then with the square in Jupiter in the 7th, you may get like really excited about working with someone in particular in order to make this happen. I'm seeing that relationships or other people in your life are going to be really pivotal for this success, but be careful not to be overly zealous, which can always come with Mars square Jupiter, you know, not putting all your eggs in one basket, not overly relying on one person. But I am seeing with a bunch of cards here that you guys are going to have wish fulfillment, success, and notoriety once you actually do combine with another individual to create the success that you're looking for. Because I think that this new pathway isn't just about you, it's about working with somebody or helping someone in particular. And that is coming into your awareness because Jupiter is moving through your 7th house. It's moving through Aries. And so your growth this year has meant to be through partnerships, through working with others. And so if you haven't leaned into that yet, I'm seeing this very strongly with the star card, the starfish card, this 3 of Pentacles, that you guys are meant to be working with others to gain this notoriety, to gain this publicity, and to have a sense of confidence within yourself. And then the Page of Wands and 9 of Cups to me is saying, maybe this is something that's just getting started that you're passionate about, but it is going to lead to this ultimate wish fulfillment in your life. So very, very exciting stuff. I am stoked for you guys. Definitely having to maybe work through getting past what you've always done and kind of where you're living and maybe relationships with your family. But besides that, I feel like you guys are on fire and things are changing in a really big, exciting way. And I can't wait to see how this affects you financially as well. So if this resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. I read all of your comments and they really help my practice to learn how it basically is going to apply to different people's lives because this is a general reading. And if you want to learn astrology from me, definitely check my course out, Astrology 101, where I basically walk you through all of the planets, signs, aspects, houses, everything that you can think of that you need to get started in reading your own chart. Or if you want someone to just read it for you, I'm always here. You can book a reading from me at williswim.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Scorpio risings. So for you guys, this eclipse is happening in your 1st house. Really big deal, especially if you have any planets in the sign of Scorpio at 2 degrees. That's going to be exact on this eclipse. And this is a solar eclipse, which means that both the sun and the moon will be hanging out there together at 2 degrees. And actually Venus will also be there at 2 degrees, which is not always the case. So it's kind of exciting to see because Venus is a planet associated with money and relationships and our values, our self-worth, also beauty. And especially because this eclipse is happening in your 1st house, it may very much relate to your physicality. But those are the areas of lives where we're all going to notice that we're affected by. However, because this eclipse is in your sign, in your first house, or if you have a Scorpio sun near your sun, then this is going to extend to a more identity levels, which means for me that it can impact any area of your life, any area that then reflects upon who you believe you are and kind of where you're going in your life, what you want out of life, anything related to your life. And I'm pulling a lot of cards for you guys. So definitely, I think a lot of energy is coming through regardless. Even if you don't have planets in Scorpio, just the fact that this is your first house, if this is your rising sign, is going to indicate that there are some big changes possible. And again, because Venus is there, I do think many of you will notice that you start to pull in different types of relationships into your life. Relationships that will not just be a support system, but will also reflect again on your identity, because this is an eclipse in your first house, an eclipse in your sign. And this wolf card to me is showing that you're going to start collecting or finding your tribe, or you may have kind of a little bit of volatility or change in the dynamic of your relationships. And I think whatever change does happen is ultimately here to bring you those people in your life that you can know, that you can trust, that you feel like they really align with who you are. And I think you'll become aware of maybe why past relationships didn't quite meet that standard, or maybe you had trouble even making relationships and friends altogether. And if that's the case, I see you having a change in that kind of dynamic and meeting a lot more people. And this could be different for everyone depending on your chart. Maybe you'll meet more work relationships, so maybe you'll network a little bit more. Maybe you'll meet actual like friendships, romantic relationships, but there's going to be a change up for many of you. And I think ultimately it's going to make you feel like you belong somewhere. It's going to make you feel like you have a safe haven to turn to. And that's really helpful because eclipse season for you guys can already be kind of intense. So it's nice to know that you're going to have some extra support coming in for you. I just pulled the wholeness card. That's so weird. That came out in the last group. So I think that you guys are feeling a greater sense of wholeness. And I think it's not only because you're learning about yourself, integrating new parts of your identity, but you're also feeling like you're part of a whole. You're part of a community. You're part of a system. You're making a difference. And that's what I'm getting here is I feel like there's a sense of wholeness and belonging. Just like this fruit, these blackberries are not the only little piece of fruit on the stem. There are many blackberries and they're all contributing towards a larger purpose. And that's really what I see is coming through for you guys very clearly. And you guys are also experiencing Mercury in Libra in the 12th house, trining Mars, and in the 8th house. So I do feel like some of you guys may have to let go of some things in order to bring about these new relationships. Because anytime I see kind of things going on with Mars, and especially 12th, 8th house, this is usually representing some ending of the past and a new beginning in its place, because this is a solar eclipse, which is a new moon. So the new moon is very much indicating, okay, you have something new coming, but sometimes there are contingencies. Sometimes we only get something new because we've made room in our closet now for new clothes. And that might be the case for you in regards to relationships. If there have been relationships in where you have been really uncertain with the 7 of Cups and the Strength card, I feel like you guys have been kind of sitting with these two cards together, sitting in a state of uncertainty in regards to some relationships in your life. Maybe you've been, enjoying parts of it, challenged by other parts of it. Maybe you have kind of been in and out of conversation or connection with some people. And ultimately what I'm seeing here is that there's going to be some kind of finality in this decision-making process. I pulled a 10 of Pentacles in reverse, which kind of feels like instead of hanging on to something that is dead, you guys are making a decision. I'm either going to commit to this person and I'm going to become have the 10 of Cups experience with them, or 10 of Pentacles, sorry. I'm going to create a solid foundation with them, or I'm going to walk away. I feel like there have been too many loose threads just hanging, and it's time to pull the thread and see where it ends so that you don't have to think about that thread snagging every day of your life, because it's an energy drain to feel like you're constantly kind of ruminating or coming back to a decision or a question that you have in your mind. And it's like, no, this is time to focus on you. focus on creating the life that you want, the relationships that you want, and making decisions about maybe existing ones that you're uncertain about in order to wholeheartedly commit to where you want to be in your life and where you feel like you belong. And so again, if there has been any lies in a relationship, if there has been any confusion or wish-washiness, if there has been a back and forth kind of energy, I'm really seeing you guys being decisive, committed to one direction. And I'm not saying that you're ultimately going to walk away, although some of you may walk away. I definitely see you guys being committed to transformation of some sort, ending one way of being. And that could be ending your wishy-washiness or ending you allowing the confusion to be there, because it might be the other person's fault too. I'm not saying it's you, but what I'm saying is that you have tolerated this like stagnant limbo period, and I'm seeing this coming to an end. Mercury in the 12th is also squaring Pluto in the 3rd, so I think that you guys are having those intense and meaningful conversations with people. You're being straightforward, you're being honest, you're being very clear, you're being very direct, and I think that you're going to lay it out on the line, and I think it's going to help clear a lot of things up and end maybe some old baggage as well. When it's Mercury in the 12th, this is definitely bringing up things and events from the past that have been on your mind, that have been on your heart, or that could come up at this time in conversation. And it's like, I'm going to finally put this to rest and move on and commit to this relationship. Or I'm realizing that these things make us incompatible, and I'm not going to keep ignoring all these things that have been building up, and I'm going to put my foot down and move on. So there's a clear like decision factor here. And again, these kind of no BS conversations. Really, that's what I'm saying very strongly here. I also pulled the Knight of Swords in reverse, 10 of Cups in reverse, and 6 of Wands. So this is interesting. The Knight of Swords upright does give me very kind of impulsive energy of I'm just going to jump right into something. I'm just going to say exactly what I think in the moment and not necessarily have the most strategic approach. And so in reverse, and then also with reverse 10 of Cups, I feel like if you do that, what it's saying is that the reaction that you could get, I think there's a need to be honest here, but I almost feel like there's a advice card coming through around being careful to say what you mean, but not to be hurtful. Because with the 10 of Cups in reverse, I feel like it's like there's a potential to kind of lose love, to lose that feeling of like having the support there. But again, I feel like this is really just momentarily, if that is the case for some of you guys. I pulled the golden egg, and this is just to clarify, and this is talking about sound. Find a deep and restful ease through meditation practice, introspection, and contemplation. When the mind is calm, ask the question that weighs heaviest on your heart. Stay open to any response you hear. So I feel like there's a need for you guys to be very honest and open, but also for you to be aware of how your words really can make a lasting impact on others. So I think that this is saying it's time to kind of make up your mind around emotional decisions and sit with yourself in order to do this. Don't rush it. Don't rush into an emotional situation with somebody. But also, when you're there, being mindful of how you word it while still being as open and honest as you can be without having to do unnecessary hurt to somebody or say things that you don't mean if you get swept up in the moment. It's like being very clear within yourself emotionally and then presenting that in order to have the best success. And that's why I see with the 6 of Wands. Like the best success is going to come from you really making sure that you are clear on how you feel before going into a situation and not dragging that person through the mud with you as you're deciding in the moment, because we don't want any more wishy-washiness. I feel like that's what this is trying to say. This is time to be clear, focused, not too cutthroat, but honest, and have some sense of resolution within yourself before the conversation takes place. You guys also have Mars in your 8th house squaring Jupiter in the 6th. So I feel like some of these things that you're cutting off or transforming or recommitting to in different ways, but again, transforming in that recommitment, I think it's ultimately going to, I hope, give you guys a little bit more like mental and physical satisfaction. You may have to kind of push through the discomfort, and you may feel a little bit turbulent initially. And then I think what it's going to do in the end is it's going to bring you like greater ease so that you can actually concentrate on your tasks that are in front of you. If this comes up for you and it's highly emotionally charged, I see you guys resolving it and then feeling like you have way more energy to focus on your work, on your priorities, because that with Jupiter in the 6th house is very important for you right now, or even your physical and emotional well-being. So I feel like this whole situation is necessary for you guys to understand more about yourself, to get out of a limbo space, to communicate very clear boundaries and expectations and desires, but also getting clear with yourself first before you communicate that. And then ultimately, whatever happens from there is going to create enough change in your life so that you can refocus your energy on the things that are really important to you, to move your life forward in a really significant way, to work on the things that are very important to you so you can reach this eventual success. And this is, again, it's a solar eclipse in your 1st house. This is all going to change who you are on a personal level so that you don't keep kind of falling back into similar situations in the future. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. I hope that resonates. If it does, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. And if you guys want an astrology reading from me, definitely check me out at willisboom.com, or you can learn astrology from me directly there as well. Thanks, guys. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Sagittarius rising. For you guys, this solar eclipse in Scorpio is happening in your 12th house, and it is exactly conjunct Venus. So typically what we see with an eclipse in the 12th house is usually a change up in relationships, because this is a Venus eclipse, and an eclipse including Venus. And there is usually something that is decaying. There's usually something that is falling away, that has kind of ended, or it's already played out long enough, and now it's at the point where it's no longer useful. It's no longer kind of constructive in your life. Maybe something that stays around for too long actually becomes destructive. And so I'm seeing you guys, if you can embody a little bit of the archetype of the vulture, I think that you will navigate this eclipse very well, because the vulture is an animal that takes the dead, that takes the things that are decaying in our lives and makes something productive out of them. It regenerates itself. It creates new life through cleaning up of the old and getting rid of the toxic as well. And that's something that can happen with the 12th house. If things sit for too long, they do become toxic. Or if they are unaddressed in our lives, they do become toxic. And so this vulture card to me is a cleaning up, a purifying of the things that have been building up, the toxins in our life that have been building up behind the scenes, especially in regards to relationships, our connection with women and femininity. That's coming in really strongly because I also pulled the Empress card. So if you, for example, have had, like certain beliefs about what it means to be a woman or be with a woman, those things might need to be adjusted. It could be around money as well. And I think that a lot of this has to do with the past, because I pulled this memory card, and because the 12th house is linked to our past, I always see things coming up from the past when the 12th house is strongly activated, whether we know it or not, because it could be very subconscious. Like, oh, this thing triggers me, but you don't realize it's triggering you because you've had all these weird childhood experiences that remind you of it unconsciously. So there's something that I see you guys cleaning up in regards to maybe the things that I mentioned around relationships or money or femininity, self-worth. Those areas of your life, you've had maybe some influences from past difficult experiences. Maybe your mom told you, you can't say no, you have to sleep with them. Or maybe your mom shamed you around that and said, don't ever have sex. That's particular to sex, but it could be around any of the things that I'm addressing. And so there could be some things that have happened to you like that have influenced you without you realizing it. And so this Vulture card, I think, is going to clean up some of those kind of toxic belief systems, those toxic attitudes, those toxic dynamics or people. And it's going to really bring them to the light so that you can recognize where you have been falling into them. And if there have been memories triggering them, maybe those will come up for you to let go of those memories or let go of the beliefs that were created as a result of those memories or those experiences. And I think it's going to maybe take some effort and maybe take some diligence once it does arise, but I think it will definitely be worth it. So just be aware of that. You guys also have Mercury in Libra in your 11th house, and it's making a trine to Mars in your 7th house. So I think that your relationships may be kind of picking up a little bit. You may feel more motivated to create friendships, to create a sense of belonging. There may be just more activity that you're trying to kind of get out into your community to support or to be a part of. And I think that this is a good time to do so. I think in a previous reading, I told you guys this is distracting you a little bit. You might feel kind of pulled in two different directions. And I do still see that you're working hard, but I also feel like relationships may be an important part of this eclipse for you as well. So don't hold yourself back from relationships at this particular moment, because there may be some new relationship dynamics that can come in to really support you and help maybe this purging process with the 12th house. Maybe some of the stuff that you'll get rid of, or the patterns of the people or the habits or whatever that you're getting rid of, could actually mean that you're going to attract new people that have that like match that vibration that you're now becoming in tune with. Mercury is also making a square to Pluto in the 2nd. So I think that you guys are ultimately needing to transform how you value yourself within your friendships and your community. And this could mean setting different boundaries. This could mean having different expectations. This could mean you really feeling like you have a lot to offer to those individuals. And so you have higher standards in order for people to be in your friend group or something like this. This square is asking you to make sure that you check in with those standards, to check in with those boundaries, to check in with your own self-worth and value, to make sure that you are attracting the right dynamics, because you don't want to fall into any old patterns. Like I've been mentioning with the 12th house and the toxicity buildup, it's just a bunch of old residue, and you don't want to just fall right back into that in these new relationships that you have the potential to build at this time. Again, very good for networking. So if you are having a business or you're doing something in sales, this is a very good time for you to kind of get out there, shake hands, meet people. And even if you're not, you can find people that can hook you up with certain things of your life where you're trying to move forward or move ahead, or maybe you want to meet new friends, but you are going to meet the connection points that will later on be your friends. So this is very important to consider, to kind of say yes to those opportunities that arise at this time. You guys also have Mars in the 7th house squaring Jupiter and Aries in the 5th house. So I think, again, highly motivated by relationships. You guys have the potential to meet new people. But with this square, sometimes there can be an overdoing of something, especially with Mars and Jupiter. You can be overly exuberant or enthusiastic, that you kind of say yes to a lot of things, or you might become like overindulgent or spend more money than you want to as a result of going on to all these social ventures. Maybe you are just being a little bit like pleasure seeking within your relationship dynamics to a point that it can go a little bit overboard. So if that is the case, remembering that you like to refocus on not only your relationships, but also kind of what you want to achieve long term. Because I do have the Knight of Pentacles. So I do think working towards something, kind of laying the foundation for something, is still going to be important at this time. But I see relationship building as also a key part of this. So don't ignore your relationships, but also don't focus too much on the short term, which could be a little bit distracting. I pulled the Empress and the Fool card. And I feel like for you guys, this is you having this new beginning in a way that's going to make you feel like you are more confident, like you are more abundant, like you're this master manifester. But it's through kind of getting rid of this toxic patterns or toxicity in your life, especially in relationships, money, and self-worth, that you're going to see you're able to embody the Empress. You're able to embody the state of abundance and rulership and confidence and all of those things. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. I hope that resonates. If it does, please give me a thumbs up or comment down below how it fits into your life, because that helps my practice a lot. And if you want to learn astrology, definitely check me out at willisboom.com. I have a beginner's course there, or if you want a reading from me, I can do that for you on my website as well. I hope you guys have a great one. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Capricorn risings. For you guys, the solar eclipse in Scorpio is happening in your 11th house, conjunct Venus, and I absolutely am seeing a kind of birth in relationships. I don't know if you guys are meeting new people or if you are connecting deeper with your existing relationships, but I'm seeing a very strong foundation being built with the 7 of Pentacles and the 3 of Cups. And these are not just friendships that you feel like you're going to tire of in the next year. This is something that I feel like is long lasting. The 7 of Cups has an energy to last you into your old age. And I feel like you guys are willing right now to invest in the relationships that are coming up, or you are going to meet new people that bring this up in you, because this solar eclipse is conjunct Venus, which is a relationship planet. And on top of this, it's in the sign of Scorpio. So there is overall a sense of wanting to open up or become more vulnerable or become more transparent and show our hearts to somebody and share a moment with somebody. And I think that this is really going to happen for you. And you're going to find these friends that make you feel like you are seen, you are heard, you are supported, like you found your tribe, as people say. And so I think that that's one of the biggest blessings coming for you during this eclipse, is having this new community emerge. And just remember that eclipse energy lasts for 6 months. So this could be something that takes some time. It could be, something that you don't see right away, but that you desire, and you will start to see it unfold over the next 6 months. I also feel like there's a few other messages I'm getting for you guys. First of all, I think that with this duality card, I think that you guys are maybe going to experience both ends of the spectrum. In one sense, I think that you're coming closer towards feeling like you belong more than ever and feeling this support in a completely deeper and just such a beautiful way. Like, I really feel like you guys are going to find these connections that show you how amazing relationships can be. And I think also you guys might find that you maybe have some conflict with somebody with this 5 of Swords. Maybe you get into a fight, or you are in competition with somebody in your career, which is very possible with Mars in the 6th. Maybe somebody within the workplace you're kind of combative against, or you're in competition against. Or with Mars in the 6th, you may find that there's just more arguments with people within the workplace, or that there are some imbalanced dynamics in your life where someone might feel like they have more power over you, and there could be just challenges to that. There could be like a little bit more of an argument around that, or frustration around that. And that could bring up a little bit of tension, but it's actually through the duality, it's through the challenging times that we come to the light. And that is what I'm seeing here with this Sun card. Not only, I think, are you attracting positive relationships as well, that shows you the other side, but I think within that dynamic where there was maybe tension or an argument or some discord, the Sun card is coming out right after it, indicating that there is wisdom learned, that there is clarity as a result of this discord, that because you guys had this fight, or because you're in this competition, it made both of you guys better. It made you come either closer, or it made you better as individuals, if this is not necessarily a relationship. There's something where I see you moving ahead in life and becoming stronger, more vital, more confident, more knowing of your own skills and abilities, and maybe also more confident within the relationship as well, depending on what dynamic this is, as a result of having to kind of confront something head on. And I think also with this Horse card, I think that you guys are feeling really free as well. And I think that maybe this conflict could be if you were challenged in any way that made you feel not free, or like you didn't have choices, or like you couldn't be as independent as you wanted to be. Maybe again within your career or within a relationship dynamic, if there were any of those power imbalances, it's like I'm seeing you guys rearing your head and being like, no, I won't be controlled. No, I won't fail at this. And like, I'm going to run ahead. I'm going to make leaps and bounds in my life. And I'm going to create more freedom as a result of me addressing this issue with this person or this company or whatever. I'm just seeing you feeling really free and independent and alive and almost like wild and untamable, but also excited and happy and kind of charging towards life. And with Mercury in your 10th house making a trine to Mars in the 6th, I think that you guys are very focused on what you're doing. I pulled the focus card. I think this is very much, let's get to work. Let's do what we have to do. Let's level up, people. Like, I'm going to wake up every day at the time I need to wake up. I'm going to do my tasks. I want to succeed. And with it, Mercury is also squaring Pluto in the 1st. So you may be in this process, though, of confronting your own inner limitations. And Pluto can show us a lot where we may need to pull on the resources of others around us, or the resources, because it's in the 1st house, of what's within you, that you may have kind of left untapped to some degree. And so there may be an opportunity here with Mercury in the 10th squaring Pluto in the 1st for you to confront your own limitations so that you can then pull on your resources in a new way, access almost like new reservoirs of discipline, new reservoirs of energy, of self-confidence, where you're able to almost like transcend these old limiting patterns that you could fall into. And so again, I feel like it's really helping you level up in a big way by owning your own power, by owning your own worth. And I think largely because this is an eclipse in your 11th house, you will also get those nutrients from the soil of your relationships around you. It's like these beautiful relationships are reflecting back to you the power that's within you somehow. And that, I think, is ultimately going to help you up level in your career in a really big way and create some solid financial future for yourself. You have Mars in the 6th, also squaring Jupiter in the 4th. So there may be ways in which you are experiencing some of this imbalanced relationship within the home, or there could be some kind of conflict between like home and family and work. Like, I'm going to do all these tasks, but then I also want to take care of my house or take care of my kids or take care of my spouse or whatever. So these areas could be a little bit of conflict, and you might kind of take too much on your plate. You might be a little bit overzealous in how much you feel like you can handle. So my recommendation with this would be to really make sure that there are clear boundaries where you're not only taking care of your tasks in the home, but also yourself. And you're doing your best to kind of manage it all and manage your expectations around what is possible, because you are only human. And I know Capricorn Risings, you probably try to do too much. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind as you're moving forward. So that is what I'm seeing for you. I hope that resonates, you guys. If it does, please let me know by liking and commenting down below. If you want a reading from me, definitely check me out at willswim.com, and you can learn astrology from me there as well. Have a great one. Bye. All right, up next we have my beautiful Aquarius Rising. So this Scorpio eclipse is happening at 2 degrees of Scorpio, conjunct Venus in your 10th house of career. And I absolutely think that you guys are going to have some career breakthroughs as a result of this, which is very exciting. And I feel like maybe this is something that you've been wanting for a long time, because I pulled the Knight of Pentacles and 6 of Cups. And it's not just like, oh, I want it like for the last year or two. It's like, I wanted this as a child. There was something here when I was a kid that is now manifesting or is becoming real, maybe in a slightly different form as an adult, but I feel like you guys are becoming something that you wanted to be. And this doesn't have to just be with your career. For many of you, it will be with the Knight of Pentacles. It's like your efforts are really starting to pay off, and they're really starting to bear fruit. You're creating something really solid for yourself. You're creating something that you have envisioned again for a very long time. And I feel like also it could be some kind of next step in your life. So maybe some of you could be getting engaged or planning some big life move that is, again, related to something that you've dreamed about since you were a kid. So maybe you always dreamed about getting married, or having kids or something like this, and you're starting to have this next chapter unfold in your life in a really big way. So that is very exciting. So let's go ahead and talk about the other things going on. So you guys also have Mercury in Libra in your 9th house, and it's trining Mars in your 5th house. So I think that you guys are maybe even feeling like you have a lot of time to play, or not a lot of time to play, but like the fact that you are having this new kind of advancement in your career, I think is also combined with the fact that you feel like you are enjoying what you're doing. And that's the 6 of Cups energy, this childlike energy. There's something going on here where you guys are having more fun. Like it's something that you've wanted since you were a kid, which means that there's something fun about it. Kids don't really dream of really serious stuff usually. I mean, maybe some of them do, but I feel like there's something innocent and there's something joyous in what you're pursuing, and it's starting to manifest in a really beautiful way, in a really solid way. And because Mercury is trining Mars in the 5th house, I feel like it's also helping you understand your future a little bit better. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do these things that I really love doing, and as you do them more and more, you start to see how this can grow into something bigger for you. You start to see how your future can kind of unfold in a way that you can continue to do what you love in a lasting sense. You can make money from it. You can, there's so many things that you can do with it, basically. And so I think that you guys are feeling very inspired right now. And Mercury's also squaring Pluto on the 12th. So there may be some ways in which you could sometimes self-sabotage that inspiration, or ways in which you could fear your own success, or feel like disempowered in the process of uncovering your desires and goals. But this eclipse in your 10th house is all about feeling empowered. It's all about maybe attracting the relationships and the money and the connections and the things necessary to succeed, because you are living in a sense of joy, because you are pursuing the things that you've wanted since you were young, and you didn't just kind of discard them or tell yourself that you can't. And so I think that this square with Pluto is a moment in time where you may feel other parts of yourself come up that doubt this ability to have what you want, or to feel this level of happiness, or that kind of wants to sabotage at different moments. But I think because, again, it's an eclipse in the 10th, you're able to override this energetically, that it doesn't have to kind of bog you down in a really serious way. And for some of you, it might be ending old chapters where you felt like you were a kid and now you're kind of growing up. That's also a possibility. But there's a really strong link here between children and kids and your childhood and your memories and your current state. So either you're pursuing something that you really wanted to do since you were a kid, or you're leveling up in a huge way where you feel like you're actually leaving behind childlike tendencies, and really seeing yourself as kind of bigger, as an adult, as someone who takes up more space. So that could be also some type of evolution with Mercury squaring Pluto, where you're having to leave that kind of old chapter behind. So that's a potential there as well. Regardless, I'm getting multiple messages about like something starting anew and a cleansing. So I'm not sure what this is related to in particular, but usually Pluto in the 12th house can have this kind of energy where you are having to be cleansed of something old, where you are leaving something behind, where you may have to have some time for like rest. And then once you rest, you're going out there into the new, into the world again, and creating this kind of vision for yourself. So I'm getting two messages of like the cleansing, the releasing, the resting, understanding what has to be left behind, and giving yourself the space and the energy to do that. And then once you do that, you're entering into the bear mode, which is you're leaving hibernation. You're leaving maybe where you felt stuck or stagnant in a certain phase of development and evolving into a new one. And it might feel really new in a lot of ways. It might feel like you've never touched your feet on this land before. You've never had these particular issues to encounter before, which is a lot like growing up or doing things that you dreamed about since you're a kid. It's always different than you thought it would be. And yeah, you have to adult in a totally different way than you ever expected. And I think that many of you are going to be confronting the parts of yourself where you may have been not planning things properly. I'm just looking at these other cards because I have the Two of Wands in reverse, the Knight of Cups, and the Seven of Wands. I feel like you guys, there's something going on here where there may be like an emotional impulsiveness to some area of your life. And this could have been in your career or relationships. I'm not going to really specify which one exactly. It could be with spending, you'll know which area this is. But there may be some kind of emotional impulsiveness where you decided to look the other way when it came to being an adult, when it came to being strategic. Because the Two of Wands and the Knight of Cups has a very like wishful thinking energy. Like, I didn't plan and I'm just going to hope that everything's okay because I am excited about this and I like want this thing really badly. But then it ends in the Seven of Wands where you're caught off guard as a result of that behavior. You realize that, oh shit, like now I don't have money to pay for my rent because I just spent it on a bunch of food that I wanted this week and I didn't even think about it because I just got high and I just bought a bunch of food on Uber Eats and now I don't have the money I need. And so I feel like there's something going on here in regards to you guys maybe maturing or again doing something that your child self always wanted you to do, but it takes a lot of like dedication, consistency, and overcoming this almost impulsive, unplanned quality to yourself where you may be passionately inspired, but it's not practical. And so I think that you guys with Mars in the 5th house are still very passionately inspired, but now you're bringing in the strategic element with Mercury in the 9th house. You're bringing in the larger kind of focus of how this is going to fit into long-term goals. And I think you're combining the passion with strategy in a way that's going to help you reduce these situations that you may have encountered where you were ultimately ending up in a spot that you didn't really enjoy because of a lack of planning. And yeah, take that as you will. And I think that this has to do with Mars in the 5th squaring Jupiter in the 3rd. This can kind of bring that out. Like, I'm just going to make this decision or do this thing. And you almost like dissipate your energy and your time because this thing popped up randomly and you decided to interact with it and follow through on that instead of what you planned to do that day. So it feels like a very distracted kind of energy. Like, oh, I really want to work on music today, so I'm just going to disregard this plan that I had to maybe do my taxes. So this could be almost like a warning for you guys also to not pursue that if that does kind of pop up into your energy field, because Mars square Jupiter is going to entice you to become a little bit more passionate and inspired and distracted by things that might not actually lead you towards this success that you're looking for. So I'm very curious though. I would love for you guys to comment down below if you guys have Aquarius in your chart, what it is that you're cleansing, because it's coming in very strongly that you're cleansing something, that you're starting something new, that you're taking these first steps. So it's like I'm leaving something behind and starting something new in a really beautiful way. But I'm not sure what that is for you. This is an eclipse in the 10th house, so it could be around career, but it doesn't have to be. So if you guys know what that is, then definitely drop that in the comments down below. And I hope you guys have a great day. Check me out at willisboom.com if you want a reading from me or to learn astrology. Bye. Up next, we have my beautiful Pisces rising. For you guys, this Scorpio solar eclipse is happening in your 9th house conjunct Venus. So many of you guys might be studying something new. Whenever I say 9th house eclipse, I think that there is a potential for you guys to learn a lot more about yourself. And oftentimes that comes through having a new mentor or having a new course that you're taking or having some kind of experience where you travel abroad or interact with other cultures or people in order to then reflect upon yourself, the way that you've been doing things, the way that you viewed yourself, the way that you view life. And it's through these kind of paradigm shifts and learning about yourself that you can then bring something new into the world, because the ninth house is also about disseminating our knowledge. So once we interact with it, we can then, I think, okay, so once we interact with something, we learn about ourselves and we ingest it, and it metabolizes and changes form. It becomes embodied, and as it changes form, it can then be let out back into the world in a new way that is filtered by you and has your personal touch on it. So maybe there are things that you're learning about yourself or learning in general that you guys are eventually going to embody, integrate, and then utilize for others to help them in their lives. And I feel like this is going to bring you a lot of abundance, a lot of happiness. I think it's a very exciting time for you where you feel inspired. And I think this is going to be the beginning of it. And solar eclipses take 6 months to really pan out. So I think that you'll notice over the next 6 months that a lot of what you're learning is going to be put to practice, and you'll start to see more of the fruit of it at the end of that 6 months. I'm also seeing something else entirely going on for you guys, entirely different. And I feel like there is a lot that you're thinking about right now. I pulled the Five of Pentacles and the Ace of Swords in reverse. And then I also pulled the Nine of Swords and the Seven of Cups. This might be two different situations, but it has a similar feeling to it. The Five of Pentacles and Ace of Swords is feeling like something's not working and then rethinking how you've been doing it. So this could be something in your life, in your business, in your belief systems. And this usually comes because we start to learn more about ourselves and we start to think, maybe this old thing isn't aligned in the same way it was. Maybe I have to reimagine how I pursued something in order to make it align more with what I want to do moving forward, the new version of myself that's come online. And so I think many of you guys are going to start seeing that. But I think there's something also that you might be, and this could be the same thing or something else. For many of you, I think it's separate. But I think there's something that you guys are worried about and confused about and uncertain about, and you're ruminating and you're ruminating and you're ruminating. And this is especially true because you have Mercury in the 8th house in Libra. Mercury in Libra already can be prone to being very indecisive about how to move forward on something. And then in the 8th house, it can be infused with this kind of fearful essence of, what should I do? I can't make the wrong choice. This could have a negative impact. Or this thing that happened last time, I don't want that to repeat. You know, I'm going to ruminate about this as if that's going to control or fix anything. And it's also being stimulated by Mars in the 4th house, which can make it a bigger emotional experience. Even though it's a trine, I actually think that this for you is coming out because Mars is a malefic planet. Even though it's a positive aspect, because it's a malefic planet, I actually think that this is going to create more emotional agitation around this issue. I feel like you guys are motivated to figure it out, to create more solidity, to also create more kind of emotional balance and stability and security within yourself, within your home, taking care of your kids. I feel like you guys are trying to figure out whatever this thing is. But I also see like some level of anxiety here because you don't know your way forward yet in some area of your life. And that's okay. You don't always have to know your way forward. And I think Pisces, you guys are very intuitive. So you're very much in touch with what you need in a given moment. And I think that you can follow that intuition, that inspiration in order to come out of this confusion or in order to come out of this anxiety and this worry. Mercury is also squaring Pluto in the 11th house. So it could be that others' opinions and the way that this might impact other people in your life, this decision or this idea, that could also be really weighing on you, or it could be a huge controlling or influencing factor. And it may be important for you guys to just take a step back and check in with your own internal self about what it is that you need without everyone else's influence. I just realized I pulled like an animal card for everyone else, but not you. Scorpion. Okay. This is a Scorpio eclipse. So with Mercury in the 8th house as well during the Scorpio eclipse, there may be something that you need to be protective of. You might need to protect your own energy. You might need to not show all of your cards. You might need to not talk about everything at first. Maybe you need to sit with yourself and process something and be protective of your own energy, and your own sense of security. And then once you feel stable and strong and certain, then you can move forward and trust and rely on others. But I feel like you need to feel that within yourself first. The Scorpion is ready to sting if it feels threatened. And so it's just basically saying, don't get to that point where you feel threatened. Don't make yourself in a vulnerable position until you're ready, until you feel like you, again, kind of know your own way forward. Let me pull one more card. You guys also have Mars in the 4th house squaring Jupiter in the 2nd. So maybe some of this could be related to your financial decisions. I feel like you're really driven to make more, but then also I feel like you're also driven to maintain what you have with Mars in the 4th, or maintain security, or focus on your family or your home relationships or on your own well-being. But then there's also part of you that wants to go out and be independent and make more money and grow your business, or, market yourself or something of this nature. I feel like it's making you very passionate. These things can feed off of each other, but they can also be somewhat distracting from one another. Like, I'm really focused on my security and my family, so then I'm not going to work on my business, or I'm not going to go develop these skills, or vice versa. I don't necessarily think that this is a big problem. I see these energies working together quite well for you, but just be careful that you're not overspending for a sense of security. If you are like looking for a home, for example, like, don't overspend to get what you want. Don't give too much of yourself to create what you desire within your home. But again, I feel like this is very passionate energy. You're very driven right now. And I think that these things are going to work really well together for you. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Pisces Rising. I hope that resonates, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Don't forget to check out my website, willspoon.com, where you can book a reading from me, or you can learn astrology from me. So I hope to see you there. Bye.